This is our week 3 team builder video. Last week we played Alex Louis. Spoilers, I guess, in case you couldn't tell from the video title, but we lost. The video isn't going up yet because it was on an actual DS, and instead of Showdown. I don't have a capture card, so I'm going to have to figure out something to do about that. It'll be up eventually. I don't know when. Anyway, back to this week. We are playing Frosty Alpha and the Golden State War Turtles. Frosty is a very good coach. He actually won the B-League Season 2, which was the first season of the B-League and the only real season of the B-League. He's a very good coach. He's an incredible team, as you can see right here, and it's pretty threatening. Additionally, he was the only coach who sniped me in the draft this season, but it's not something I was really too upset about. Anyway, let's get right into his team. Oh, and I'll leave a link to Frosty's channel in the description below because he is the first coach we've played that has a YouTube channel. So yeah, go check him out and give him a lot of support. He'll probably put up his side of the video around the time I put up mine, and that way you can see both perspectives. So the first thing you see here is the Mega Audino that he sniped me for. Given my team, it's really not as much of a threat as it could be. It can set up Calm Minds, but I'm not going to let it set up too much in my face because I have Mega Steelix. Mega Steelix can take it out with a heavy slam, and it can't do a ton back to me. Additionally, things like Tyranitar counter it pretty okay, not as great. But overall, Mega Audino isn't something that threatens me too much. The next thing here, though, this Smogon Burb Talonflame scares the crap out of me because if it gets a free sword stance, it's pretty much GG no re. Additionally, Priority Brave Bird is horrible. The fact that he has this here really almost forces me to bring Stealth Rocks, which isn't something I'm a fan of, but it's the game we play. I don't really feel like I need to explain Talonflame too much. If you play competitive, you know what this monster does, and odds are you probably dislike it almost as much as I do. The next thing we have here is Mew. I don't know what Mew's going to do. It can do literally anything, and since I can't prep too much for it, I'm just going to move on to Amoonguss. Amoonguss is going to try to put me to sleep if he brings it. Aside from that, it Giga Drains, it can Leech Seed, it can Sub, it can generally be annoying. It's one of those things where you have to stop it before it gets on a roll, and you have to hit it very hard because with Regenerator, it can take a hit, switch out, come back in, and annoy you some more. We do have Sleep Claws in the RBL, so Amoonguss isn't quite as annoying as it could be in VGC or something like that. But still, having something put to sleep can really kill your momentum, and if that happens during a critical turn, then it's something that's really hard to come back from. We have Greninja. This is Torrent Greninja, not Protean Greninja. Protean Greninja is banned in the league, but Torrent Greninja is still a threat because it can set up all kinds of entry hazards. Well, spikes and I think toxic spikes, but his team as a whole can set up a lot more entry hazards than I'd like to deal with. And it's still very strong. Torrent especially lets it hit a lot of things really hard with Scalds. It could do Surf if it wanted the extra power over the burn chance, I guess. Dark Pulse, and it could be physical too. It's not quite as viable physically, but still certainly something that I'm aware of and that I'm going to need to plan for this week. Hawlucha is incredibly threatening to my team because after Unburden it outspeeds everything, even with Choice Scarves, I believe. because Unburden is 2 times and Choice Scarf is 1 times. And beyond that, it has really good coverage against my team since I have a compounded fighting weakness. And overall, it's not something I really want to deal with, but I think my way around this is going to have to be bulk and not just flat out offense, because I have things that can 2-hit kill it and eat up a hit in the meantime, whereas I don't have anything that can reliably outspeed it and take it out. So I'm just going to have to accept the fact that this thing is going to hurt me if he brings it, but I can mitigate that damage by packing some bulk with things that resist it, probably something like Yuxi. Next we have Gudra. Gudra can be a lot of different things. It's really viable as banded specs. It's very good defensively. It's not Mew, but it's quite viable, and that is still something that's threatening, especially since I don't have a ton of stab for it, a ton of super effective stab for it. And it could also carry something like Gooey, which makes my physical attacks pretty unreliable against it, because he could just come in, let me get a physical hit off, and then turn the momentum against me, which is something we don't want to happen. Next is Magneton. Magnet Pull is really useful on Magneton, but since my Steel type is also a ground type, I don't think he'll bring it at all, really. And if he does, I'm bringing Mega Steelix anyway, which I imagine he will know that I'm bringing Mega Steelix because of the fact that he has Mega Audino. So I really don't see this thing coming this week. It could be Eviolite and bulky, but none of the sets that I know Magneton can run really make sense against my team, because there's just too many good counters I have against it. Next we have Regirock. Very good physically defensive. It can eat up a few hits. I have things that are super effective for it. It doesn't worry me as much as things like Talonflame, Mew, Amoonguss, Hawlucha. Piloswine here. Piloswine, however you want to say it. I don't really know what the correct way to say it is. Pillow, swine, I guess. Swinub kind of looks like a pillow. But it has Ice Shard, which late game Ice Shard with something like Choice Band, Life Orb could really do a number on my team if he whittles me down far enough. But if I get whittled down to the point that Choice Band or Life Orb, Ice Shard is going to finish me off, I think I kind of already lost. So I have some things that counter this, a lot of super effective stabs. It's not the bulkiest thing unless you give it Eviolite, and if you give it Eviolite, then its offensive capabilities are really hindered, because it is one of those middle evolution things that can be okay on occasion. And it's kind of funny that I say that, and you'll see why in just a minute. But usually I'm not a huge fan of middle evolutions. They don't often do much. We have Rotom here. I used to not think Rotom was a threat, and then I played against Quinn with it in Season 2, and I still won the match, but his Rotom annoyed the ever-loving crap out of me. I was Substitute, Shadow Ball, and it stalled Blissey out for a long time, longer than I think either of us would have liked, honestly. And then we have Fortress to finish off his team. Fortress is the hazard god of Pokemon. It sets up every hazard pretty much. I don't think it gets Sticky Web, but only has 1 4x weakness. It's essentially a better defensive Scizor with hazards and Rapid Spin, which I guess Scizor gets defog, so whatever. It's bulky, it's hard to deal with. The only real way to deal with it reliably is to bring fire coverage, and I don't have Fire Stab. I considered making a free agency change in order to get Fire Stab, not just for this week, but I also have to fight Mega Scizor later in the season, I believe, and so it'd be helpful against that as well. I didn't end up doing that, but I did plan fire coverage for this thing specifically. Alright, so with that said, I've played against Frosty before, twice. He's beaten me both times. The first time he got a max roll to win, otherwise I would have won on the very last turn. It was still a really good game. It was around 200 turns because we both really love to play stall. And then the second time, I made a bunch of misplays. Not to say he didn't play well, because he absolutely did. But he also won on a roll, but I believe he would have had to get an absolute min roll in order for me to have won that match. But we've had two very good, close games, but he has won both of them. So I'd really like to get a win against him this week. What I know about him as a player, he likes to set up early. He'll bring at least one thing to set up, I'm almost 100% sure. That's his playstyle. He likes setup, and he likes a lot of bulk. He's not afraid to stall me out. One of his earlier matches in the season was actually a timeout, and I think it was 5-3 or 4-6 or something. But I can definitely see this being a very long match. So here's what I'm bringing to counter his team. If you remember me roasting middle evolutions, here's a not fully evolved Pokemon of my own. Gligar is a new addition to the team. I dropped Tornadus because I just wasn't impressed with what Tornadus was doing, and I wanted another Rapid Spin or Defogger so that I didn't have to bring Hitmontop every single week. So this thing is Eviolite, mixed bulk. I believe it is max HP, and then bold with max special defense. I kind of tried to make the defense and special defense stats even out. They didn't quite come out exactly even, but they were pretty close. It doesn't have any attacking moves. It's purely utility. It sets up rocks because I need rocks for Talonflame, and it defogs away any of the 73 hazards or whatever disgusting number of hazards it is that Frosty could bring. It also has agility and baton pass. The strategy here is essentially get up an agility and pass it out to one of my bulkier attackers that I brought. Pretty much everything on this team except Steelix appreciates the extra speed. Not that Steelix doesn't appreciate the extra speed, but it's base 30, and so I would need to get plus 6 speed for it to be relevant at all. So that's really part of my plan. If it doesn't come to fruition, it doesn't come to fruition. But I could see it definitely being useful because he has a lot of fast things on his team, and me being able to outspeed isn't necessary to win, I don't think. Like, I don't need to be able to outspeed all of his fastest Pokemon in order to win. I obviously cannot outspeed Talonflame because Gale Wings Brave Bird is a thing, a broken thing, but it exists for whatever reason. But it can be helpful. Just in general, speed is nice to have, I guess, especially when you can use those EVs for things like bulk. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It's agility, baton pass. Then we go into Tyranitar. Tyranitar sets up the sand, which helps Steelix because Steelix gets sand force, and it helps Stoutland because Stoutland gets sand rush. So one thing gets power from the sand, one thing gets speed from the sand. Aside from that, 4 attacks and Assault Vest. I just really wanted it to be able to take on Audino if it needed to. I was considering bringing something like Ironhead specifically for that, but Stone Edge does like 2% less than Ironhead because it's base 120 stab, whereas Ironhead's base 80 not stab. So the moves I brought were Stone Edge, Crunch, Ice Punch for coverage, and Flamethrower specifically for Fortress. It's Adamant max attack in addition to being quite bulky especially, but even with Adamant, Flamethrower is still a 2-hit KO, and I would have had to, I don't think I actually can 2-hit kill, or 1-hit kill Fortress with Flamethrower, and I know I can't actually because Sturdy is the ability I foresee him bringing, so there's no point in trying to 1-hit kill Fortress. Even Adamant, I still 2-hit kill it, so that's my justification for bringing a nature that lowers special attack on a Pokemon with a special attack. Aside from that, it's specially bulky. With some agility speed boosts, it'll be speedy. Even if it's not speedy, it can get off a few heavy hits, and the sand is really a good utility for my team. It was one of the things I considered when drafting the team, and I hope that Stoutland and or Steelix really get a chance to shine with that this week. Next we have Gengar. It's really, really standard. Timid Specs. This is a guaranteed 1-hit kill on Audino. In addition, because it has Sludge Wave, in addition to that we have Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Destiny Bond. Destiny Bond is kind of the panic button of, oh no, he's set up and something just died. It sucks to have to sacrifice something, but I stop the setup if I go down with him. Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Sludge Wave is just really good coverage on pretty much any team, really, but especially against Frosty's team. That was what I felt like Gengar's best move pool would be this week. We have Stoutland, the Pupper Supreme. Adamant Sand Rush with Life Orb. He's going to hit hard, he's going to hit fast if he's in the sand, or if he gets some agility baton pass to him outside of the sand, he'll also be very fast. I was considering bringing some Fang moves here, but things like Ice Fang, even when it was super effective against something, Return did more because it was such high base power and stab. We also have Super Power, which is just more coverage, and because it is such high base power, sometimes it is a better move to click than Return, according to the calcs. And then we have Fire Fang, because Fire Fang is 4 times effective, and against Fortress, it will be the best move to click. But when I was running calcs, aside from Fire Fang on Fortress, none of the Fang moves or none of the other weird coverage moves that Stoutland gets did more to anything that I would use it against than Return or Superpower. So with the 4th move slot, I just put in Thunder Wave. If I can get Stoutland in towards the end of Sand, because Sand only lasts 5 turns this generation, unless I'm bringing the Smooth Rock, which I'm not. So if I bring him in towards the end of Sand, I can outspeed something, Thunder Wave it, and then continue to outspeed it if Sand ends, which is nice because I can get off some hard hits, and Thunder Wave is just nice to have in general. He has Mega Audino, which has Aromatherapy or Heal Bell, or one of those 2 moves. They do the same thing. So because of that, statuses aren't nearly as helpful as they could be, especially since Mega Audino is such a premier user of that kind of cleric-y set. But I really see this being a move that I use when I have to have Stoutland. go one-on-one with something. And I don't know if he will go one-on-one with something, but if it works, it's a cool idea, I guess. We have Yuxi here. Yuxi is modest max special attack and also max HP, which means that the base 95 speed it has isn't going to let it outspeed anything that is base 90 plus speed nature or base 90 invested. It's going to be slower than you might expect it to be for an offensive one, but that's okay. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm hoping to pass some agility into some things and see how that works this week. And aside from that, he has safety goggles because he can go head-on-head or 1v1 with Amoonguss this way. He's protected from Spore, he's protected from any sand damage that he might otherwise take. Of course, those could always be knocked off, which would be unfortunate, but I'm hoping that I can catch him by surprise and use that turn to set up some Calm Minds. Beyond that, he has coverage, Psyshock, Giga Drain, and I don't remember if I put Shadow Ball or Dazzling Gleam on this, but it's one of those two. I want to say it's Shadow Ball for Mew specifically. The main idea here is if I can set up, that's nice. I'm hoping to catch Amoonguss by surprise. There's some nice coverage. Giga Drain can help me stay alive for longer. If I can get Agility Baton passed into Yuxi, that'd be pretty cool too. Finally, we have Steelix. Steelix is our burb counter. It doesn't counter Talonflame as well as I would hope because it is weak to fire, even though for some reason ground doesn't resist fire. I've been told that when there are forest fires, the ground is still there afterwards, so it doesn't really make sense to me why ground doesn't resist fire, but I didn't make the game, so I guess I have to live by Nintendo Japan Game Freak's rules, where fire burns through the ground. And because of that, I decided to invest into max HP and max defense so that I really actually could counter Talonflame to the best of my ability. In addition to that, it's kind of a stall counter because it can't be poisoned. It could still be burned, but there's not a lot threatening on this team that wants to burn me, whereas Mega Audino would be more than happy to toxic me. Heavy Slam, Earthquake, and Fire Fang are the moves we have that are offensive. We also have Roar, just in case I get into a bad matchup, he starts setting up on me or something. I can take one hit from almost anything that's physically offensive, save for like a +6 Talonflame, and I can roar it out, and Heavy Slam, Earthquake are very powerful stab, especially if I'm able to capitalize on Sand Force. So I also considered running the more Fang moves, or like Crunch or something on Mega Steelix, but I ran into the same issue that I ran into with Stoutland, where my stabs were usually more powerful than something that was super effective and a lower base power. The exception being Fire Fang, because I just really don't want to deal with all of the Fortress shenanigans, as you can see by the fact that I brought 3 fire coverage moves. But fire coverage can also be for Amoonguss, I guess. So that's the team I brought. Like I said, this is the Week 3 Team Builder. Week 2's Team Builder and battle video will be up eventually, somehow, some way. But before that, the Week 3 battle video, in probably Week 4, Week 5 maybe, battle video and Team Builder will be up. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about this team, about our team matchup, all that kind of fun stuff in the comments or Skype. And I'll see you guys next time.